and a copy of this recording will be shared out with you once it's available. So I'll make sure that I share that out with you. So thank you to all of you for joining us today here for AT Office Hours. This session will have Kathryn Hatfield sharing with us shortly. And just a reminder, we talked about this a little bit just a minute ago, but if you need to mute yourself, which is great while other people are presenting, you can either hit that button at the bottom of the screen or hit Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac. And then we just learned by hovering over them that Control E or Command E is to turn your video off. So you can definitely keep your video on. We love to see people's faces as we're on here. It lets us feel like we're a little more part of the group. But if you could keep yourself muted for part of it, that would be great. All right, so I'm Julie Ray. I work for the Duluth Public Schools and Region 3, and I'm glad to be hosting AT with distance learning. So we're doing office hours. I do this every time just to talk about the why we're doing this. It's a big part of adult education. We need to be thinking about why we're doing something just to get it embedded in our learning. And you know, we're all in a huge learning curve now, and we are looking for things to make our jobs easier, and resource sharing is one way to do that. And then for me, of course, obviously would be to help increase student achievement and engagement, but be thinking about what your individual why is too for being here. The other piece I always talk about is the Sett Framework. Just for a second there, it's the student, the environment, the tasks, and the tools. And this is the framework we think about when we're thinking about tools to choose for students. What do we know about the student? What environments would they be using a tool in, an assistive technology tool in? What are the tasks that we want them to be doing? And then here's our brief agenda. We will be looking at some resources from Kathryn, and we'll introduce you to her in just a second. And then we'll do some question and answers. We'll talk about distance learning wins with Greg Sumner, that segment every week too, which is great. And then super brief additional resources and wrap up. So I am very excited to introduce Kathryn Hatfield here today. She works at Stowe Elementary in the Duluth Public Schools and is a cross-categorical Setting 3 teacher. So she works with a variety of students with a variety of needs. And I will turn it over to you, Kathryn.
Thank you. All right, I'm just getting the sharing here. While I do that, I also want to give a little heads up. I'm at school, and I just found out about 10 minutes ago that we have some people here to check on our fire alarms. So I was given the heads up that a fire alarm may or may not go off. Good thing I don't have to leave, but if that were to happen, we'll probably cut it on over to Greg or Julie to kind of take over, and when it's over, I'll come back. So can you guys see the screen okay? Is it looking good, Julie?
Yep, looks great.
All right. So I oh, sorry, I hadn't clicked back to my spot here. So Julie and I are in the same thing here. So I just wanted to kind of give a little background on my classroom. So Julie already said I'm a cross-categorical Setting 3 teacher. I have students with mild to moderate and severe profound developmental cognitive disabilities, autism, severely multiply impaired, as well as physical impairment within my classroom. We are very structured, very predictable, and we have many established routines. And because of the predictability and the routines, many of my students can follow the educational and functional routines with minimal support. So I'm very proud to say we've had a really good year, and this whole learning from home has really kind of put a bit of a damper on some of our accomplishments. We weren't able to see as far as we could go, but it certainly presented us with a challenge. And before I get to that, I do also want to do a little, some of the things that I am using come from the STAR Autism Support within the Media Center. All of our routines and visuals, all that kind of stuff fall right into here. We in Duluth are unable to use the STAR online learning system, which is not interactive, but essentially everything's done for you as a teacher. You present your screen with the student on the other end of the chat, and then you're able to kind of click through and follow through with the different curriculum components that they have, and that follows the STAR curriculum program. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I am pretty positive your low incidence coordinator or autism specialist would know more about that. So maybe reach out to them if you're interested in learning more about that. Like I said, we use a lot of the different routines and visuals from the STAR program, and a couple of them that you'll see, like the token board and things like that. So if I kind of click through, so obviously we have the challenge of getting our students to do education at home. This continues to prove to be a challenge, I think, for many of us. So I guess this is my thought process, is what I'm going to present to you today, as well as some of the things that I have set up for my students to make their learning at home successful. So I'm not going to touch on the actual materials that are being used or the packet work that's going out. I guess I'm talking more about the environment, the tasks, and the tools. So exactly kind of what Julie had introduced to us with the Sett process, kind of that introduction she gave to that a little bit earlier. So in replicating the environment, as you can see here, I created baskets of supplies for each student. Everything in there are materials that we use every day in school. So crayons, markers, whiteboards, whiteboard markers and erasers, 10 sticks, cubes, handwriting cues, visuals, routines, task analysis for different skills. I even have some parents who loved some of the stuff so much they're hanging up the bathroom routine in their own bathroom at home. And I think this has just given parents a different maybe view on kind of what we really do at school. So it's been kind of cool to get some of their responses. I sent home motivation charts, as well as some folder of extra work kind of here in the yellow folder. Not necessarily extra work, but academic games, because of course there's going to be the days that students are not going to want to do their work. I also wrote a letter of grace to the families, just saying, do your best. You have a lot going on. You're, working families yourself, or whatever it might be. And then that's also where just some contact information is. So I sent home all of this stuff. And then I'm also doing weekly story times. And then one component that I did not have the parents necessarily teach themselves were some of the mini lessons on sight words and letter sounds. And it's a completely like by choice thing. And that's through Seesaw. And I'll chat about that here in a little bit. I did a lot of caregiver coaching. We did just through conversations, through video chat, whatever mode of communication the families were able to have with me. I did a lot of coaching. So I sent home examples of what a great learning environment might look like at home. We talked about limiting distractions like the visual, auditory, and sensory, having good lighting, having a hard surface, the same spot each day, and not a spot that's typically used for another task. Within there's maybe if it's a place they always do Legos, probably not the best place to switch to a school. And like I said, I found picture examples, and that was actually their first kind of task, was either to draw or mail me back or send me a picture on Seesaw of what their learning environment looked like. So then after we kind of set up some of that environment, we started to look at some of the tasks. So for completing work, there's a choice board here. So these are just all the academic areas. So reading, math, writing, and then a little bit of quiet reading, and then some like gross motor activity kind of stuff. And then this just went through. So if they chose to do a math activity, this paper here was giving the parent exactly how it would be done. So kind of like what level of support the students need within each of those academic areas. It's also telling them where they would find any supplemental materials or supplies they might need for that. And then also when they're done. So when they get to trade that visual in for a token on their token board. So each day the students kind of get choice. So that's helped with some motivation, where if today they're going to do it in whatever order, whatever it might be, and then they're choosing one off of here, placing them on here, and then as they complete them, they're trading. So they would take off the visual, and then they would put the token on. When they have all 5 tokens completed, they would be able to be done. Some of the parent coaching also included, caregiver coaching also included the idea that, you can preload the token board with 2 tokens. You know your child best. You know what's expected today. You know how today might go, the different concerns or things that are kind of presenting that day. I completely coach the parents through the different adjustments they could make to make it work best for them. We also modified our typical reward system is money-based, where they're counting money every day, that they're earning money for their work, pretend money. So we kind of moved to this. So then as they would do one thing for reading, one thing for math, they would be able to color this in. I also sent stickers. And then the parents got to choose this column. They kind of liked that, where they would write in maybe brushing their teeth. Or I told the parents to choose something that was attainable, but yet maybe a small struggle throughout the day. So parents have really liked this. I've already gotten 4 out of 6 of them back. And then they were able to choose a prize from our typical Hatfield store that we would have any other time with our typical reward system. Excuse me. Kind of making sure I'm hitting everything. So then this is for some of our tasks that are more academic. We also have students who are maybe more of that functional level. I provided the routines written out to all of the caregivers. Everything from the beginning of so essentially a routines-based interview, like what you would write up within that. I highlighted and underlined specific things or cues, the different levels of prompting that we're providing here at school. That way they can try to replicate some of that at home. So it's essentially, a lot of it was the present levels within the IEP, but just summarized in a more compact and easy to read way. These are just a couple examples of some of the skills that are getting worked on at home with some of our students who are on the more functional level. So right here, this is a song object choice. So these are objects that I'm sending home. The student is choosing which object, and that correlates with the song. I've structured through everything for the caregiver. So really all they have to do is follow these 4 steps. If it seems too easy or it seems too hard, there's additional ideas for them to do, and then it goes through what each object means. Same thing here. This one was for some cause and effect apps that one of our codas gave me a nice list of. And I was able to send that list of, again, because it's technology-based, it was very much an optional activity. But the family did note that this individual student did have an iPad at home and was able to access the internet. So because that's what he needs, we were able to give this list. And then it also, again, the levels of prompting that we know this student needs. And then when it's not working, when it's working, just that outline of information there. And then the last one is the literacy participation. Here's a link, and I think the copy you guys got may not have a touchable link, but I can certainly share that too. But it was that's a list of books that have repeating lines. So I sent home probably 10 or 12 books that have repeating lines, children's storybooks that have repeating lines in it. They're using the talking bricks to go through, to record the repeating line. And the student is activating the switch at the time of the line when it's their turn. So it kind of goes through of, how to set it up, and it goes through like have that dramatic pause when you're reading to kind of cue into the kiddo. So it kind of set everything up for the families and the caregivers. And then, so we've kind of gone through the environment, the tasks, and now these are some of the tools that I just sent home. So again, these are familiar tools for the kiddos. We've got a kiddo with a physical impairment who is unable to use his left arm. So we have a lot of sticky tack and a clipboard to hold his paperwork because that left arm's not going to be able to help him support the paper. Letter tiles, my kids fatigue quickly with some of their sight words, things like that. So they can practice some of those. Timer for quiet reading. I've also, within that yellow sheets in that packet, I also gave parents other ideas for the timer. You can use the timer for brushing teeth, use the timer for quiet reading, use the timer for whatever it might be, multiplication chart, of course. Some other familiar tools was the token board I kind of chatted about. This is just a picture of our classroom word wall, and it was blown up much larger, so they were actually able to read what all the words are. The talking bricks for some of our students who are working on more of those functional goals. And then I am continuing to utilize the Seesaw app, and that is a free app that parents can download. And the nice thing is I've actually been able to add one of our paraprofessionals as a co-teacher on the app. So she's able to post things and post videos and post ideas. I'm choosing to use this because all of my families routinely have access to this. So this was just something that I personally felt comfortable using with my family. So And again, so similar to the communication we have with our school team, I've been having some similar conversations with caregivers at home about how a student is doing. So the educational environment, the tasks I've set up, the tools that they're provided, based on some of their observational data. We've been able to make some adjustments to the tasks as well as some additional training on some tools. Overall, things are going pretty well, and I'm fairly happy with everything. And that is the end of my presentation. And I think we're open for any questions. I know I talk fast. Let me exit my presentation mode here.
That was great, Kathryn. Thank you so much. Yeah, so now we'll open it up to questions and answers. And if you want to, you can definitely unmute yourself to be able to just ask a question verbally, of course. You can turn on your webcam if you'd like. That'd be great. Otherwise, you can type your question in the chat window, and I'll make sure that I monitor that too. So I'll read. There is one question, Kathryn, that came in from Krista Sieverts, and she asked how the students are getting the rewards from the store.
So when we have a packet pickup and drop off, I've set up with some families that way. I've put some in some mailboxes at some homes, and so that's just kind of been how we do it. The kids are very familiar with what's in the store: Pez, bubble blowers, little cars, so they kind of already know their options. And I've also taken a picture and put that on our Seesaw app to have kind of a store laid out, so they can kind of let us know. But we've done kind of deliveries that way. We also have the busing system. We haven't used that yet to make those kind of deliveries, but we're fortunate to have a driver that I'm pretty certain would make any specific deliveries.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. And Krista also just typed in the chat window. Krista, I'll read this out too, that she said, I love giving parents different ideas for using a timer, giving me ideas for other items they likely have at home. So that's great. Greg gave some feedback saying, awesome. Thanks so much and great presentation. And similar feedback from Barb saying, great job, Kathryn. So if anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself. Again, that's either Control D, or you can click on the microphone on the screen to unmute yourself to ask a question, or type it in the chat window.
This is Krista again. Kathryn, for those, the direction sheets that you had for the parents, did you create that yourself or find that somewhere?
I did, and I just kind of went through, thankfully this year I have kind of 3 clumps of students. So I have some students who are kind of at the same higher level. So I only had to make 3 different copies of that. But it just outlined kind of the level of support. So how the parents were going to support the kiddo through kind of what I already knew they could do, what areas they might need help on based on the content that we're sending home. And then, so that was the how. And that, yeah, so it was something I created. I'm certainly willing to share it as well. I don't think there's anything confidential on those. I'd have to look through it first, but.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to see an example, just kind of a closer up example.
Yeah, definitely. I can share that.
And Kathryn, if you're okay with sharing those out to the whole group, if you would share them with me, I can send them out when I send the recorded session.
Perfect. Yeah.
Great. I know people love getting all those resources, so that'll be good. I know they're on the slides, but sometimes it's nice to have them.
Yeah, and it's 3 sides because it goes through all of the different, like if they're doing math facts, if they're doing, the different content that we're sending out.
Cool. It's a perfect example of not having to reinvent the wheel when we're making stuff. So yeah, great. All right, any other questions? Last call this round. We'll of course at the end hang around if there's more questions too, but any other questions right now? All right, and if not, we will thank you very much, Kathryn, for sharing with us. And now I will turn it over to Greg Sumner for our Distance Learning Wins segment.
Hello, thank you, Julie. It's been a good week here in the Distance Learning Wins, and thank you, Kathryn. Wow, that was super exciting to hear about. I'm definitely going to rewatch this. So I'm setting my timer here. We're going on 3 minutes. It's gonna be a short one this week, I think, but as always, we're coming at you from DLW. Don't forget that. So do I have my screen shared yet? Let's see, I'm going to share it now. I'm going to share my entire screen and show you a little trick here. Maybe. Let's see if it works. All right, share. So I'm thinking you're seeing the double screen right now. So what I'm going to do is, all right, so if you see this here, I'm going to touch and click and hold it. And if you just do that, it actually moves it from the left to the right. It automatically resizes. It's some little fun trick I've been showing some people. I learned it from somebody else just the other day and find it very time effective. All right, so here's we go. Distance Learning Wins. Previous episodes are at the very bottom of this document. So if you're interested, check it out. Feature every week, we do a teacher-student story, tangled in tech, ergonomics, and school-wide wins. Our first story coming at us from Hermantown Elementary, Middle, and High School. Alicia Frankowiak. Sorry, I should have said that practice before. She's a DAPE teacher. Her quote is, "It pushed me to learn something new and use my creativity in a different way to reach the kiddos I work with. You always have to think outside the box." Getting pictures and videos back from them and what they did with the lesson is the best part. She's working with, I should have put all age students in DAPE. Her task is weekly home exercise programs for PE or DAPE. She does weekly virtual outings for her kids, and she gets answers back from her students regarding the questions she asked and the experiences they got to have doing the activities she sent out. Her tools are WeVideo, Seesaw, verbal recordings, and cameras. So she's able to make a great video of weekly exercises, and then she also does a little weekly outing for them where she actually goes to those places and asks them questions. Click here for an option to look at what she actually does. Nice job, Alicia. All right, our Tangled in Tech win here, coming right back at you, Julie Ray. She answered the challenge of how do you see your students while you are presenting? Such a great tip. Click that video right here in case you didn't see it last week. Another nonverbal win here is Krista Severson last week talked about this great PDF for Zoom meetings. Click there to get that great link from Krista. Ergonomic wins, kind of a slow week for that. I had to kind of make some stuff up. We're at our over 2 months. According to MDE, we started this in March 19th. Isn't that hard to believe? Over 2 months. So I really got to do this myself. I need to raise my laptop up and get an external keyboard and mouse. Not only does it help your ergonomics, it can help you it'll position your camera better. And our final story, school-wide wins, we had Minnehaha Elementary did a distance virtual spirit week. Fun times, keeping it exciting. So as always, please keep sending your stories here. We have one more week, but please send them to any of us here and we will get them on the program. So we'll see if I can get back to watch this. I just click here, click to the right, boom, immediately makes it nice and small. So back to you, Julie. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. I'm going to now go back to the slideshow just so that you know that in that document that Greg just shared, Distance Learning Wins, is linked in your slides. In the PDF version, you should have live links in there, so you should be able to go to that document. So thanks again, Greg. Always nice to hear those silver linings in distance learning. Additional resources, I just listed one here, Infinitec. I know I've talked about it before, but at myinfinitec.org, you can get a free account for that, both for yourself and for any family members too. The families of your students. If you need to know how to get an account, you can let me know. I should have linked that on there. But this is just one webinar that they're doing, differentiation during remote learning. And I've registered for that one. I think it sounds great. Infinitec always has great staff and great resources. So I'm comfortable recommending anything that they put out in terms of saying that it'll probably be a good one with some good resources. I say every week, just think about one thing moving forward. If you've got 100 things that Kathryn talked about that were helpful, then definitely take those 100 things. But sometimes, especially when we're on this huge learning curve, it can feel overwhelming to try to think about a bunch of things. So just think about one thing. What might be one tool that could help your student in the given environments and tasks? So just be thinking about that as you move forward. Next week, we will be hopefully talking about Chambord. It's a new resource that I just learned about. So if anyone's a specialist in this, let me know. I would love to brainstorm with you, play around with you on this digital whiteboard for using in our example, Google Meet. So I've got a teacher who's trying it out this week, so I'm hoping to talk her into presenting too. But again, next week, same time, and I'll be sending out registration information on Monday, as I've been doing each time. Next week will be our last week, so that'll be your last opportunity for this year, but we'll make sure that we keep this going next year too. Thank you to all of you for attending and all the work that you're doing. And a big thank you to Kathryn for presenting information today about things that you're doing to obviously beautifully support your students at home in a variety of different ways. So thank you so much for that. And a recording of this session will be emailed to you. I will be stopping the recording now, but feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. My email address is there at the bottom of the page, but watch for that recorded session